Welcome to Brain Strength. This is a series where this average Joe teaches you a thing or two about sports psychology while occasionally giving some demonstrations and some examples. I'm your host, RJ Lynch, and with my master's in sports psychology, let's get this rolling. In this episode of Brain Strength, I'm going to be looking at what I call appraisal, situation outlook. Really, it goes by many different names. As we go into it, we'll go into some of the details there. So first off, what is this appraisal, this situational outlook I'm talking about? Well, by definition, I'm talking about the ability to assess and evaluate and interpret a situation, including the demands, challenges that you might face and have put against you, the resources you have to overcome the situation, and what other opportunities and things are there. Are you able to actually see a situation as what it is, or do you see it as this thing that's bigger than what it is? The other piece of the definition, or the other piece to it that I like to focus on is how do you interpret situations as threats versus opportunities? So we're all going to be faced with challenges. We're all going to see things differently. But when it comes down to it, do you see things as a way to grow, to be better, to show out and show up? Or do you see it as threats to your ego, as moments where if I fail this, I become a failure, I suck, all these things that could run through your brain. And this appraisal can vary depending on the situation, the person. It can even vary by the competition that you're actually at. So a regular season game against an opponent can feel like one thing. You're like, oh, this is an opportunity for us to grow as a team, for me to show up, crowd is whatever it is. But then all of a sudden you get to the state final or the championship match and you're playing the same team, but because the lights are a little bit brighter, the crowd's a little bit larger, all of a sudden you see it as a threat, as a moment where it's like, oh, if I do this poorly, I'm going to be embarrassed and it's going to set me back years. So even the same team, the same game that you're playing can be seen in two different ways just by how things change. Going back to the demands and the challenges piece to it. In a regular season game, there might not be as much pressure on it. The demands to perform well might not be there. Maybe your team's a little bit healthier, so you're able to share the ball more, play better together. Then all of a sudden you get to that championship game, the pressure's higher, people are a little bit more beat up, so there's more on you to do, you have to put more out. You know it's a win or go home. There is no next game. So there's just these different pieces to it that change it from being an opportunity where you could just grow in a moment where you're scared of what could happen if you fail. So how we appraise situations really comes down to our mindset. And the two types of mindsets are growth, which correlates to seeing things as opportunities, or fixed, when we see things as threats. The growth mindset will see things as opportunities, as I mentioned, and they're very much in the belief that they can develop from things. Even when they make a mistake, they can be playing the number one team in the country. They can make mistakes throughout that and see as, no matter how I play today, I'm going to learn from what happens. If we win, I'm playing with house money, so go out it and try to win. But if I fail and screw up as I go through it, that's okay because I'm getting something out of it. I'm still learning from those mistakes and becoming better because of it. If I'm fixed, if I see things as threats and challenges to myself, I see as these threats to my self-esteem or what I believe I am. You don't think you can change or develop as a player. You are what you are. The best example I always use for these two mindsets come from track and field. When you get into practice, when you get into things, do you see speed as something that can be developed, that's something you can become better at? Or are fast people fast, slow people slow, and there's really nothing you can change in that? I'll tell you, the science says everybody can get faster. If you run fast, do the workouts right, you can get faster. You might not get faster than XYZ person, but you can become faster than maybe some others that were faster than you at the start. But people who are in a fixed mindset are thinking, slow people are slow. I just need to find a different event, or I have to do what I can at this. I'm not going to get any better. I'm not going to get here or there. Just got to play my part, and that's who I am. Maybe I'm a better jumper, have things there, so that's where I'm going to put my focus. I'm not going to worry about developing speed. Or someone who's a growth mindset's like, yeah, right now I'm a better jumper, but I know I can get better at being fast, so I'm going to work on it. And when I'm put in races, well, I'm going to give it my best effort. Whereas the fixed person's like, I'll do it, but I'm just going to kind of my way through it. The other big difference is how we perceive failure. Because if you perceive failure as a part of learning, like you have to fail, you have to do things wrong to get better, you're going to see moments as opportunities because you're like, well, I can't grow and learn if I don't fail, so I have to put myself in situations where I could actually fail. So then that translates to how you see things. You're going to see it's an opportunity to learn, to grow, become better. Whereas if you're fixed, failure is discouraging. You see failure as something that's like, oh, if I fail, I'm going to lose my spot on the team. I'm never going to be what I want to be. It is something that I can't handle because if it happens, I am no longer what I believe I am. I am not this defensive specialist when I fail at my defense. And when things hit that realm, everything's a threat. If you're so set in your ways that if I fail, I lose a part of me, then you're never going to put yourself in situations to grow. You're never actually going to grow. As the quotes always say, the master has failed more times than the beginner has ever tried. And if you're fixed mindset, you're never going to fail enough. And you're never going to learn enough to be that master. So obviously, we want to be in a growth mindset. It is just the bare spot. A lot of times in these, I can say there's a spectrum or want to be this or that in certain situations, but no. In appraisal, in our mindset, we want to be growth. So what goes into having a growth mindset? Well, the first was you believe in your ability to learn. Your focus is on the process over the outcomes. So going back to track and field, someone who has a growth mindset doesn't care about how many races they win. They don't care about the championships they have. They look at how is practice going? Where are my times right now? Am I improving? Am I going from being a 11-second runner to a 10.9.7 runner to a 10.9.3 runner? Am I breaking the 10.80s? Am I slowly making progress? Even if I'm coming last in all my races, am I still able to look at where I'm going from where I was and being like, okay, I can keep getting better. I can keep going in this direction. In other sports, it might look the same way. Yeah, you might scrub, you might not score all the points you want, but is your technique better? Is your conditioning better? Are you stronger? Are things getting better? Are you learning how to be a better athlete at whatever sport you do? In order to believe that you can win, you have to have a positive attitude towards mistakes. If you hold on to mistakes as something that's like, oh, this embarrassing moment from third grade where I said the wrong word out loud when we were doing the reading thing, and then everybody laughed at me, and now everybody remembers it. I am just that kid that said that word wrong. Well, you're not going to see things very well. If you see every mistake as this negative thing, you're not going to grow. If you have this positive spin of, yeah, that sucked, but I'm going to get better at it, I'm going to improve. Focusing on improvement, if it's starting to sound repetitive because it's all tied together. Because your process over outcome, you're just focusing on your improvements. Doesn't matter how many games you win, lose. It doesn't matter what things might look like. You're looking at, am I getting better at who I am? Am I getting stronger 5 pounds at a time? Next up, you have to be open to feedback. Most of the time, why do we make mistakes? Why do we fail? It's because we don't know how to do things right yet, or we haven't done it enough to do it right. You have to be open to your coach's feedback. When coach comes over and say, hey, Johnny, maybe you should kick it in their goal next time, you have to be able to look at it as like, yeah, that might work, instead of, no, I like it my way. If you just shut it out, even when you know that is just a dumb play, or you know, like, maybe that was a mistake and you're not the best in the world. You gotta listen to coaches, gotta listen to teammates, listen to other sources that might know more than you so that you can improve. And then finally, you have to be flexible. You have to be willing to get outside of your comfort zone and try new things. Yeah, Jumping off that leg when you're going for your layup might be uncomfortable because you're always used to driving on the right side, and now I'm having you drive left, so you have to jump from the other foot for your layup. But you're now going to be able to go to the other side, so the defense isn't locking in on one side of the ball for you. You're getting better, but you have to be flexible. You have to be able to adapt to what we're doing, seeing what happens. And then you also have to be innovative sometimes. If you're so fixed in the thought process that this is the only right way to do this thing, when you're in a situation where that right thing does not work, you have to be able to come up with these creative solutions and problem solve. So now on to the science bits. So the first one is the work by, I'm going to butcher her last name, I know it, Carol Dweck, and it's her book Mindset. It's kind of the foundation for a lot of the growth first fix stuff that we talk about. I've gone over a lot of it here already, so I'm not going to dig more into it. If you want to learn more or want to see a review of the book, some highlights of it, let me know. The other piece of appraisal is cognitive appraisal theory. It's the idea that a person's thoughts and beliefs, rather than the events, dominate our emotional experience. The best way I can phrase this one is think about practice, think about games. When you go into it or when you come out of it, is all you can remember that one mistake you made? Is it because you lost the game, all you can focus in is the little things you did wrong throughout it? And then because all you can focus in on is those little mistakes, you're emotional, you lost, you're angry about that, so you're thinking about mistakes, it's compounding over and over again. But really, you played a bloody good game. The other team just did better. But because you're so focused in on your anger and at those little things, you think, I suck, things are horrible, I'm not a great athlete, I should just stay in my lane and not do things next time. Instead of that growth of like, I can learn from those. Yeah, sure, it sucked, I'm a little bit angry about it, but I'm not going to let my emotions encapsulate me so much that I can't recognize these as learning opportunities. And with cognitive appraisal theory, there's two pieces to it. There's the primary. So there's the initial evaluation of the situation. So you get done with a game, let's say you lost, you're angry. Everything you evaluate from it is angry. It's filled with anger at yourself or at your teammates, and that's all you can focus on. So everything sucked. You suck, everyone sucks, all that. Our secondary evaluation comes when we've applied some of our coping skills. So you're angry after the game, you thought everything sucked, was horrible. Then you sit, do a 10-minute meditation, write a reflection journal, whatever it is, and then you're like, I did these things really well. I made a lot of growth in this spot. Before, I could never rebound the ball or pass correctly, and I was pretty accurate this time with my passes. Even though you lost, because you separate that anger, separate that emotion, now instead of just being this fixed threat mindset, now you see it as opportunities to grow. Like, oh, I did improve. That's a good thing. So now we've talked about the mindset a little bit. What are things that I would do as a mental performance professional to help you hit that growth mindset? Well, the first thing is thought tracking and reframing. So a lot of the reasons why we stay in this fixed mindset is we're so ingrained to focus on mistakes, to focus on not doing well at things, that what I have athletes do is after a practice, after a game, I have them think about what were the thoughts that went through your head? Write them down. Was it mostly positive, negative? When you did certain situations, did you notice yourself getting angry? What was going through your head during it? And then once we identify patterns of when negative thoughts come in, we start implementing little tools of, all right, how can we shift that? So if you notice this thought or this thing happens, what can you do to shift from negative to at least neutral to maybe positive? And then we just go through that over and over again until we're at the spot where we've undo those natural tendencies of go directly to the negative. With that, I go then to our mindfulness check-ins. So I'll have athletes set random alarms throughout the day or pick certain times throughout the day where they're supposed to do scheduled check-ins with themselves where they just sit and reflect on how are we feeling right now? Are we positive? Are we negative? Are we thinking about good things, bad things? Where are we at? And then recognizing in a mindfulness standpoint, that there is no good or bad thinking, there's just thinking and accepting the fact like, oh, that statement probably was not helping me a lot. That's okay. Now I'm going to think about something else I know is going to help me. The next thing I'll do is process goal setting. So one of the reasons that we get sent fixed mindsets is we're so focused on the outcomes of things that when we lose, we just see things as bad. With proper goal setting and better goal setting, we change that focus from how many wins, championships, points we have, all these things, to what is the technique thing you want to get better at. So you're trying to make varsity for a team in something, and there's this one technical error that you know it's not your best at. So can we make a goal where that's the main thing you worry about? It no longer matters how many points you score, how the team does, but can you get better at this area? Can you focus in on this and create goals where it's like, I'm going to get X amount of practice doing that thing. Or I create statements where I remember to focus in on that area. So that way, even if you come out of the game and the team lost or you didn't have the greatest performance of your life, you can look at that area and say like, I did that well. Now, what are the other things I didn't do well? And those are my new goals. Those are my new process goals. So I can slowly build on one thing at a time until I become the complete athlete, the badass that I can be. And the last thing I'll have them do is journaling their wins. Once again, as I mentioned, we're so ingrained in that idea of everything's wrong, I can only focus on the negative things, that I will have them pick out 2 to 3 things they did during the game that went really well. And I'll have them write that down, physically write it out, and then from there, we just see how it grows. Keep doing that, and they eventually get to the point where they can recognize, yeah, I am good at what I do. Coaches, what can you do to help your athletes? The first thing to do is allow your athletes to fail. If every time they make a mistake, you pull them out of the game and yell at them, they're going to be so afraid of failure that they're going to play things safe and they're going to think, that's all I am. They're never going to try to grow. They're never going to take opportunities. They're never really going to learn. They have to have that space to develop and become a better player. And then along with that, you have to make that shift in your goals as well. Yeah, as coaches, our livelihood depends on our win-losses, but that can't be your main goal because you'll lose the athletes along the way. You'll lose yourself in the sauce, and all of a sudden you're so focused on winning that the quality of your team just plummets because they're so focused there instead of becoming just better athletes. With both of those, monitor how you give feedback. Are you giving it in constructive manners where they can actually learn and grow from it? Or are you giving it in ways that are just bad? And this is really a reflection of you as a coach. Can you break down what someone does technically wrong in a way that they can understand and then cue it up in the way that they can get it right? Next thing is be open to feedback from your athletes. If you want to create a culture where people are growing and learning from mistakes, when you make a mistake, you have to be open from your athletes. You have to be willing to listen to them, correct you on things you say or things you do wrong so that they know it's okay to make a mistake. You can still be good at what you do. You can still grow no matter what because everybody takes feedback. Everybody needs it. So that's all I have for today. If you have questions, concerns, or want to learn more, give us a like and follow, subscribe. Contact us in the comments or on our website. And until next time, if there's anything today I said that you found offensive, I hope you can forgive me. And if you say anything in the comments or so that I find offensive, no, I'll probably forgive you. Brain strength, out.